So the NFL is considering changing the way their financial structure works, and it legitimately could change the way that US sports and especially the NFL work forever and open the door for even bigger changes down the line. Like no clickbait, no trying to get your attention. Genuinely could just absolutely turn everything up on its head. So let's get into it. The NFL is currently debating whether or not to let private equity firms invest in the NFL. Now, this also includes sovereign wealth funds, but we'll get into that in a second. A private equity firm pools money from investors and then uses it to buy stakes in companies or real estate or anything else with the goal of selling it later for a profit. So basically, if I run a private equity company and I have 100 people that each contribute $10 million, I have $1 billion, right? 100 times 10 is 1,000. So yeah, so I have $1 billion. I can take that $1 billion and then I can go to say a soccer team or a basketball team or anything like that right now. I'll use soccer as an example because this is where it's most prevalent. I can go to like say Bayern Munich and be like, here's our 100 billion, give us that many, whatever according to valuation, give us that much percent of your team if the team is up for sale or those minority stakes are up for sale. And it is a way for, more investment into the team, more money into the team, which benefits the current ownership, the players, the fans, all of that. And for the people that are buying into it, obviously they're making a profit. It is a great deal for them because money and, capitalistic economies, money, right? So why is this, if this is so great for everybody, why is this not already in the NFL? So currently the NFL prohibits institutional ownership, which means like a team isn't allowed to be owned by a large group of investors. It has like one person, like the majority owner has to have, I believe, a 30% stake at least in the team, and then you can have a bunch of minority owners as well. The Washington Commanders were just bought, so Josh Harris is the majority owner, but then, Magic Johnson is one of the minority owners and a couple other people. Same thing with Lewis Hamilton being a minority owner of the Denver Broncos, while the Walton family from Walmart is the majority owners. So the NFL doesn't want, private equity. Like, the NFL doesn't want like 100 different people trying to contribute to the team, which makes sense. It also protects the owners that are there right now because 100 people combined will have more money than one person, even Jerry Jones. So now let's get into whether, other teams have it or other leagues have it. They do. The NFL is currently the only U.S. league that does not have that does not allow private equity to buy into teams. The NBA, MLS, and MLB all allow private equity to buy up to 30% ownership. The NFL would most likely stick to the 5 to 10% range to start. They wouldn't let private equity go higher than 10% for any team, which makes sense because you're tying it out, but then once again, you're protecting the owners that currently own the team because you're not giving up too big of a pot. But where this really gets interesting and why it's so important and why I'm making this video is that this shift in financial policy for the NFL, which, is something that they've never let happen. Currently, the Packers are the only exception because they were publicly owned before this rule even came about. So they were kind of grandfathered in, and it was like, we're going to let you keep this, which is cool because that's a really special thing. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a prior video on this channel talking about why the Packers are so special and unlike any other team in sports ever. So that is just NFL policy. However, where it gets tricky is when we get into sovereign funds buying into this because they are a form of private equity. So what is a sovereign fund? It is a state-owned investment fund. So the U.S. doesn't have it because we are not, a big government country. But, a lot of the oil companies or a lot of the oil-based economic countries in the Middle East, such as the UAE and Saudi Arabia and Qatar, this is what they use to invest in things abroad. So the most famous example right now is the Saudi Public Investment Fund, also known as the Saudi PIF. They bought Newcastle United in the Premier League and immediately spent $400 million in the transfer market to make that team better. They also this is the same fund that created Live Golf and was paying every golfer $500 million, $100 million, $300 million, depending on the caliber of golfer that they were, just to get them to leave the PGA and come. So as y'all can tell, money's kind of fake to them. They can spend however much money they want and realistically not feel a dent because of how much money they already have from oil. Why are they doing this? Sports washing is a very real thing. I have a podcast coming out that I recorded with someone. We talked about that on there as well. But, sports washing is very real for these countries because they don't have the best human rights records. Saudi Arabia, obviously, with Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist, LGBTQ people and their rights. It is a litany of issues when we get into the nitty-gritty of human rights with Saudi Arabia. So, if people are thinking about, Saudi Arabia is the one funding Live Golf, that's what they're doing, this is cool, instead of, what happened to the journalists in the embassy? It's better for that country as a whole reputation-wise. In addition, they know that oil isn't going to be bought forever. They know that oil isn't going to be around forever. And they know at some point down the line, they will not have any more oil left to drill. And people are not going to be buying as much oil as they were 2 decades ago. So this is their way of hedging their company's economy for the future, right? Same thing with the Abu Dhabi United Group in the UAE. They own Manchester City. Manchester City has won the Premier League 4 out of the last 5 seasons, I believe. And they, are investing more money than most teams in making that team good. So if, say, there's a scenario where a team like the Seahawks or the Chargers or the Raiders, because Mark Davis is by far the poorest owner, and I say poorest, but, he's still worth like $900 million. He's just not a billionaire, right? So say a minority stake comes open, 5%, let's say, and the Saudi Arabians are like, okay, cool, we have this PIF thing. We're going to give you, Mark Davis, you own this 5%, or whoever owns this 5% if it's a minority stake. We're going to give you $1 billion, or we're going to give you $700 million, right? Because NFL teams have grown in value consistently since the NFL's inception. So it would be a good asset and a good investment to buy into. And after that, they're like, you know what? We have unlimited funding, basically. Why don't we give you better facilities? Why don't we, upgrade the stadium? Why don't we do all of this with private money? And then they start, they get up to 10% if the NFL allows later for more money to be invested by private equity. They let that happen, right? That changes the competitive balance. And that's in a league with a salary cap where, we don't even think about, what they can do with rosters. Because, in the European soccer leagues, there's no salary cap. So if a team is willing to spend more money, they can get the better players. Now imagine 30% of the Arizona Diamondbacks or the LA Dodgers, who are already, bankrolled to high heaven. Imagine them getting Saudi investment or Qatari investment or investment from the UAE. Or, for that matter, I'm not just going to use the Middle Eastern companies, any private equity firm, right? They can sign every player imaginable and give them as much money as they want and skew the competitive balance even more in favor of the rich teams, right? Then the Oakland A's are even more screwed. So this is why it's a big deal. And, besides the various geopolitical reasons why a Saudi Arabian government fund investing in U.S. sports would cause headlines, it would also, like I just said, skew the balance of power even more. And without a salary cap or with a salary cap, it would make some teams in a much better position to contend than others. Coaching salaries don't come out of the salary cap. Say a Saudi Arabian PIF fund decided to invest 10% into the New York Giants. The Giants could then offer Bill Belichick $100 million a year to coach with the Saudi money because they want the team that they're associated with to do good. And that's where things get very interesting and also complicated. So that is what is in the pipeline because obviously the NFL wants more money because, once again, capitalistic company, capitalistic economy, that's just how it works. Let me know if you guys think this is a good idea or a bad idea in the comments. Please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.